Alright, David Harry here, and in this video I'm just going to be talking about my YouTube policies for things such as receiving products in exchange for reviews and also sponsorships and stuff like that. Now this video isn't some kind of like sexy groundbreaking video or anything. What it's for basically is just to explain to those few people out there who do sub to my channel and watch my videos on like a somewhat regular basis exactly how I go about such things, because I think this kind of information is going to be useful to regular viewers. So what I'm going to do first of all is just to explain what my policies have been up to this point, and then I will explain what my policy is going to be after this point, and then I'm also just going to quickly talk about some of the stuff that I've got on the table here. Okay, so the first thing to talk about then is what I've been doing up to this point in time. So with regard to the videos where I've been given a product in exchange for a review, I've never accepted any money to do those types of videos. I'll explain why about that in like the second part about what I'm going to be doing moving forward, only because I think when you receive money to do a product review, I think at that point it becomes a little bit ambiguous as to whether or not you're going to feel that like maybe, you know, you should be being a bit more positive about a product or something. And I do believe that when money is involved, there's definitely a pressure on the YouTuber or the content creator to actually come up with a more positive review and stuff like that. But I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But like I say, up to this point, I've never been like paid, or I've never received money when I've done a review in exchange for a product. And although I've been offered money to do those things, I've not accepted it, mainly because of the reason that I've just explained then. But also the problem is when people want to give you money to do a product review, they also expect to have an input into the review. So that takes me on to the next point of where I've been up to this point. Anytime I've received a product in exchange for a review, I've never given the manufacturer any input into the video. They never get to see the video before it goes live, and they don't know what the video's about. It's basically all my own words, as people say. Now, I don't necessarily say that in my videos, because I think at this point it should be implied that that's the case. Plus also as well, and I don't want to start like, you know, pouring piss all over other YouTubers, but I know for a fact that other YouTubers get paid for certain things that they don't admit to. Do you know what I mean? So the problem is, if I was like a big fat liar or something, then you're not going to know that. So I could say anything to you. In fact, this whole video could be a lie, couldn't it, on that point of view? And this is the problem, and this is the reason why I'm doing this particular video, because I just don't believe that most YouTubers are as transparent as what they ought to be. But basically anyway, I know for a fact that certain YouTubers definitely got paid to do certain reviews. However, they don't actually admit that within their reviews, and quite often a lot of them lie about it as well. But up to this point, I've never accepted money to do any of those reviews. And like I say, the main reason why is, one, I think there's a conflict of interest that comes along with that. But the second thing is that manufacturers expect to have an input in the video. And as I've just said, I've never allowed manufacturers to have any input in it. However, I will talk a bit more about that as well when I get on to moving forward and stuff. Now, as far as sponsored videos are concerned, with that, it's dead simple. Yes, I receive money from a manufacturer, and then what I'll do is then do like a little short section in one of my videos where I'm talking about either like a product or a bunch of products by a specific manufacturer. Now, the important thing to note about that is that when I do that, whoever's paying for like the sponsorship, the video that they're paying to go into isn't about their products. So basically there's no conflict of interest going on. So as a for instance, I recently done a video about a PlayStation 5 SSD upgrade or something like that. Then in the video I had a sponsored ad section by Acasis. Now of course there, because it's a PlayStation 5 video on how to install an SSD into a PlayStation 5, there's gonna be like no conflict of interest with that advert going into that particular video, because Acasis are not selling SSDs for people to go and build, you know, put into PS5s and stuff like that. So basically when I receive money to do a sponsored ad spot or something like that, it has to be to do with a video where the actual manufacturer who's paying for the ad spot doesn't have a product in the video. Now, sometimes I'll go close to the mark once again with the cases as an example. I've done a couple of their ad spots inside other videos where I might be using, say, other enclosures as a for instance. However, and once again, there's no conflict of interest because the actual main product being spoken about within the video isn't by a cases. So just to be clear, moving forward, that will always be the case as well as far as the sponsored ad spots are concerned. Now, as far as those sponsored ad spots are concerned, I also tick that box on the YouTube upload page which says, you know, this is a sponsored video. So the thing is, whether I've said it or not in the video, which I think I always have done at that point. In fact, yeah, I always have done, because I always say, and now forward by the sponsor of this video. So I clearly say it in the video, and it clearly is an ad spot. But also at the beginning, the little title comes up on the video to let you know that it definitely is a sponsored video. And then also within the video description, I will also mention it there as well. So basically, that's where I've been up to this point. Now, moving forward, I am going to be changing my policy slightly to do with all this stuff. So basically what it is, when you upload a video to YouTube, YouTube ask you, you know, is this a sponsored video? If so, tick this box. Now, I don't want to start pissing all over other YouTubers, but loads of them do not do that. So you, the viewer, quite often have got no idea that the product being reviewed is either sponsored or it was given to the person, you know, in exchange for a review, because loads of YouTubers don't make these things clear. However, when you upload, YouTube has this option, you know, for sponsored content. Now, it's a little bit ambiguous because the sponsored content, as far as YouTube are concerned, is basically to do with when you've received money. Now, that could be for an ad spot, or it could even be for being paid to do the video. But realistically, YouTube's only real criteria for this is if you've received financial gain. Now, I have a problem with that. And the reason why is because if you've been sent something in exchange for a review but not received any money, as far as I'm concerned, that is a sponsored video. It has to be, because whatever you've been sent has got an intrinsic value to it. So that in some way is like payment for the video. So I think that should be a lot clearer, and I think personally that should be classed as sponsorship. Now, you'll hear a lot of YouTubers mention like, oh yeah, you know, I got this free product. Well, at the end of the day, they're not really free products either, and the reason why is because, like, you know, my time has a value on a daily basis in order to do video production. So if somebody sends me something, what they're doing basically is not paying me for my day rate for video production. Instead, in exchange, I'm given a product for my time. So it's kind of like, you know, this like equitable exchange of product and time and stuff. So in that sense, it's not free, because obviously there's an expense to do with your time and production facility and stuff like that. All your equipment and all that stuff, you know, has to be factored into it. However, I strictly do believe that when you are given something in exchange for a review, or if someone calls it free, that should be classed as sponsored video. Now, I don't want to keep over-laboring this point, but I just don't think that it's clear enough on YouTube as to when these things happen. So what I'm going to do moving forward, even if I've received a product which I never received money for, and I never got paid to do the video, but I got sent the product expressly to do that video, then what I'm going to do is to mark up the video as a sponsored video, and I'll also mention it in the video description. Now, I may not say it in the video, but I'll definitely put the titles up, you know, on YouTube, so you know that it was a sponsored video, and it will be said within the video description. I still may say I've received it and stuff like that, but I just want to be super clear. And I know this is going to piss off a lot of YouTubers, but I think all of us YouTubers, we need to be held more responsible for like defining, you know, what sponsorship is, and not try to hide behind this bullshit about like, you know, it's only when you get given money. Because like I say, there's a monetary value to all of these things that you're given in exchange for your time to do the review. So just to be super clear about everything, if it's a product that I receive from now on, which is like, you know, done in exchange and no money's received, or if it's like an ad slot where I'm being given money, then at that point, both of them are being classified as the exact same thing as far as I'm concerned. So my viewers have got like a ton of clarity on this. So everything in that regard will now be like, you know, marked up as a sponsored video as well. Now, just quickly again on this point as well, as to like when I've received something, I will only do this the very first time that I receive something, because quite often I get sent stuff, especially by Acasis, because I use their stuff all the time personally as well as review it. I receive one of their things, but it'll get used in like a million videos. So I'm not going to mention in every single video, well, I got this in exchange for a video, I got this in exchange, I got this in exchange, that was sponsored, blah, blah. I do this the very first time that I've received something, and then after that point, it just becomes part of like my daily, like, you know, kit and the stuff that I use for doing my videos and stuff like that. But like I say, just to be super clear on that point, and I know I'm dragging it out quite a bit here, but I want to be super clear about it. From everything from now on, when it's either something that are being given in exchange for a review, or if it's being a sponsored thing, it's all going to get classed as sponsored videos, just to be super clear to you, the viewers out there. Now, just before I get on to what I've got on the table here, I'll just want to talk about a few of the little things here. So the main reason why I'm doing this video is because I'm getting sick and tired of watching YouTubers going on, and this section of the video is being sponsored by. It's like, what do you mean this section of the video? You got paid money. The video's being sponsored, not just that one section. Or when you see people who've received certain things in advance of a release date, and like they've been under embargo and stuff like that, and they turn around and go, yes, everything that I say in this video is like, you know, all my own views and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, although, you know, I've not been paid to do the video and this, that and the other. Well, see, most of that stuff is absolute bullshit, okay? Now, I know this to be fact, and the reason why is because I was contacted by a couple of manufacturers in the past to do particular types of videos where they were going to sponsor the video as well. And I know for a fact what the terms and conditions are for these things, and the manufacturers definitely have an input. They have an opinion. They almost have a script as well. They have a bullet pointed list of things that you have to talk about in the videos. So when you hear YouTubers saying all that fucking stuff about like, you know, oh yeah, well I was given this like, you know, in advance, you know, and I was under embargo, but now I can do my video, but don't forget it's all my own views and nobody's had an input. Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on at least 90% of that stuff, okay? Now, I know that's going to piss off other YouTubers, and it may piss off some of you viewers out there who have got like strong affiliations to certain other YouTubers who you think are all dead clean cut and don't bullshit and lie to you. But the thing is, basically, most YouTubers are full of shit, okay? Pure and simple. Even me, I'm full of shit to a degree when it comes to certain stuff, because I just get waylaid with the technology, and as far as other people are concerned, I go too far with it, and they probably think, Dave, you're just full of shit, mate. You need to just go straight to the point on certain stuff and stop overemphasizing certain things, pretty much as I'm doing in this video, over-explaining things. Now, from somebody else's point of view, I can understand they're going, you're full of shit. But the thing is, I might be on that within that respect, but the one thing I don't do is like bullshit and lie to viewers or to the viewers, and I most certainly do not hide behind all kinds of bullshit crap about stuff that, like, you know, I can use as an excuse to say like, oh yeah, well the video was all me, nobody paid for it. Although, as a for instance, when you see all these people that got sent GoPros or whatever, you know, they've had them for weeks doing the video, and you're sitting there going, come on, and you're trying to say that GoPro never had any input into this thing. Yeah, right. Anyway, so like I say, there's a few things that I've been really unhappy with myself about the way certain YouTubers approach these things, and I just want to be super clear from my little corner of YouTube, just so that my viewers know that at the very least I'm telling people, yes, this stuff came to me. You know, I appreciate that it's got a value, and whether other people don't think that way, I do. So I'm going to let you people know that this is basically a sponsored video. Now, also on top of that as well, so I'm losing a bit of train of thought here because I'm starting to diverge into things that maybe I shouldn't be mentioning about other YouTubers. But anyway, the other thing to mention here as well is I may do some videos where I've been paid to do the video as well. However, in those instances, I will make that probably really clear. But once again, that will not happen unless the person who wants me to do the video has agreed that they do not have an input. Now, that is very unlikely to happen because most of these manufacturers, if they want to give you money to do a video, it's because they want to have an input into it. So I've already had this done a few times in the past, and the manufacturers basically slammed the door on me when I said, well, you can give me money, but you're not having an input. They don't want to know. But if that ever changes, I'll let people know about that. Okay, so I think that's probably where I'm up to with all this stuff, and hopefully I've been super clear to people out there. Now, what I'm going to do is just quickly explain what's on the table here. Now, everything on the table here have been products that have been sent in exchange for reviews. These haven't been reviewed yet, and there's probably twice the amount of this product in the corner over there that haven't been reviewed either. So there's going to be a ton of reviews coming up. I'll just quickly flash through what these are, but just as a point here, just to prove something. Let's see. Yeah, this thing here, the Fusion Dock Max 2 by Ivanki, right? Now, I think this is about $400. So if somebody's sending you something expressly to do a video about it and it has a value of around $400, seriously, do you as a viewer not think that that's going to be a sponsored video? Because that's most certainly how I'm going to deal with it and everything moving forward. But that was just a quick point to make there because of the value of that particular product. Anyways, let me just flash through this stuff for any of my regular viewers who might have gotten through all this meandering that I've been doing. So what I've got here is this thing by Orico. It's basically like a little tower system which you can connect up to a Mac Mini. It's basically the same kind of footprint as a Mac Mini. It can sit on top of it, although you could use it with anything that's USB. But basically what you do with this thing, you put 2 hard drives in it, like mechanical spinning drives, and then you can create raids and stuff with it. So this is probably going to be really super interesting to some people who just want to use less expensive mechanical drives for things like long-term storage and backup and stuff like that, or archiving, especially if you want to do something like a RAID 1 and you want to say put say I don't know 2 terabyte or 2 4 terabyte or whatever hard drives, and have some safety at the cheapest possible price. And plus this thing itself isn't particularly expensive. Now, these 2 Ivanki things here, the Fusion Dock Max 2, I've not tested it thoroughly yet, but this just looks absolutely amazing. However, the Max 1 here, which is the Thunderbolt version basically, this thing here is hands down the absolute best Thunderbolt 4 dock I've ever seen or used, okay? This thing is super unique. It's basically got 2 Thunderbolt 4 chips built inside of it. And what happens is it connects to your MacBook via say 2 cables. So instead of just getting 140 gigabits connection to the dock, you get 2 of them. So in total, you got a combined 80 gigabits per second going into the dock, which basically means if you kind of operate it in a particular way, you can actually have your video feeds separate from say your data feeds for your SSDs. Because of course, when you're on Thunderbolt, no matter what Thunderbolt it is, your video feed takes precedence over your data feed. So basically your data basically reduces for your SSDs when you're connecting say video outputs and stuff. This thing here can get around that to some great degree by basically having effectively 2 separate docking boards built into it. It's amazing. Anyway, that'll be coming up fairly soon. Now the Max 2 here, this is a Thunderbolt 5 version, although this doesn't have 2 independent Thunderbolt 5 chips in it. But what it does have is one Thunderbolt 5 chip, but also another chip which basically takes care of like DisplayPort alt mode. So effectively what this does is try to separate as much as possible the video from the data and stuff like that. So this has got some amazing functions on it. Now both of them as well are just absolutely amazing for the amount of ports they've got on and the amount of power they send out of those ports, and both of them are like well capable of topping up and keeping like, you know, the latest MacBook Pros all fully charged and powered. They're brilliant. Anyway, so just moving over here, let's see, what's this? Oh, an OBSpot. This is an OBSpot Meet 2. Now this is just a really dead cute little 4K camera, like, you know, just like a webcam. It's basically a UVC device, you know, so like UVC video, you know, capture device, but it's a camera. Anyway, I'm going to do a little video about this one, using it as like the you call it a face cam or something when you game, and so I'll use this with my PS5. I've already done some quick tests with it, and it's absolutely awesome to use as a face cam thing. Now I've got this thing here. This is, hold on, I'm a bit lost. Where's the name on it? I've had to open it up to read the name actually on the enclosure. This is by Vangry, and this is an 80 gigabits per second enclosure, or basically a Thunderbolt 5 enclosure. So I'll be doing a video about this soon, as well as an alternative to some of the other, you know, like SSD enclosures that I've covered on the channel. But again, nice little super small little enclosure thing that does like Thunderbolt 5 and 80 gigabits per second. So that might be a good video for some people out there. Now this one here is the Powtop M4 Mac Mini, little, like, you know, sit on the dock system type thing. Now this one here, I believe this is the 10 gigabits per second one. Yes, this is the 10 gigabits per second one. Now just a quick thing about this, because I'll be covering a few more things like this on the channel as well over the next couple of months. What it is, a lot of people probably, like, you know, turn the nose up at like 10 gigabit variations of these types of things, you know, for the M4 Mac Minis, because most people are going to go, well, I want Thunderbolt because, like, you know, it's Thunderbolt on my Mac. Now here's the thing, and I'm not too sure if anybody's actually explained this properly yet on YouTube. These little dock things, no matter what they are, a lot of people go on about like they lose like a lot of Wi-Fi signal on the Mac Mini when they're connected to these types of docks. Now incorrectly, a lot of people have been saying, oh yeah, because the antennas are getting blocked and all this stuff. Now the problem isn't actually the antennas being blocked. What it is interference from the chipset within inside the actual dock, which interferes with the Wi-Fi signal. So what it is, a lot of these, or I think all the 40 gigabits per second ones, they basically interfere with the Wi-Fi. However, these ones here, which are only 10 gigabits, because of, well, I'm assuming because they run at a lower frequency as far as, like, you know, their data transport is concerned and stuff like that, the clocking internally is a lot lower than what it is for the 40 gigabits. So with the 10 gigabits per second ones, you don't have all those issues to do with your Wi-Fi signal being lowered and stuff like that. So basically, these are actually really good for two things. One, they don't interfere like the way the 40 gigabits ones do for your Wi-Fi, but also for a lot of people, 10 gigabits is probably enough for most of the things that they're doing anyway. So you might want to get something that's a bit cheaper, which also means that you're probably likely to put cheaper SSDs in them as well. And on that point as well, I've also bought, what is it, an SN7-100, which is a basic Gen 4 Western Digital SSD, and I'll be using that in a number of different builds coming up as well, because it's just a fantastic, really fast SSD, but super cheap for its speed. It's really, really good. Anyway, that's that one. I've also got another FiberCo enclosure here. This is a 40 gigabits per second one, or a Thunderbolt 4 one. Now the thing with this one, what I really like, it's just super easy to open and close. And yeah, I won't over explain these things too much right now because I'm going to be doing reviews about them, but I do like the way that this one is super easy to use to open and close it and stuff like that. It's and also, yeah, it's got a fair bit of weight in it with the metal as well. And in my tests so far, it's been really good at cooling and things like that. So that'll be coming up for anybody who's interested in 40 gigabits and Thunderbolt 4. What have I got here? Oh, it's just another variation of one of those M4 Mac Mini desktop things and stuff, you know, little dock systems. Again, this one is a 10 gigabits per second one. Hold on, I really do need to get my glasses fixed. Yeah, it's another 10 gigabits per second one, although it's got slightly different functions compared to the PowerTop one there. So I'll do a review about that. What have I got here? Oh, this is another 40 gigabits per second enclosure, and this is a QuizLab one. And this one is absolutely awesome, I think, so far, because it's basically just like a lump of aluminium, which is going to be awesome for like absorbing the heat and then dissipating it through all the fin structure on the top of it as well. I've only used it very slightly at the moment, but the first thing that I noticed with the couple of SSDs that are put inside of it, it is for a passive enclosure, as in one that doesn't use a fan. It's really good at cooling the SSDs. I've still got to do some more extensive testing of these things. However, I will be doing a review of it on that point as well. What I'm likely to start doing with the enclosures which are passively cooled, I'll probably start using the SN7-100 SSD for those ones. What it is, the likes of like the SN850X, which is my kind of go-to SSD, and then obviously you've got some really good Samsung ones. They definitely run a lot hotter than some of the other SSDs do, and in which case when you put them in a passive enclosure, you are running the risk of increasing the temperature of the SSD being used for long-term use and stuff like that. Now, the heat wouldn't damage those particular SSDs immediately, but the thing with electronic devices is that over time, the more heat that's being applied to them, it does actually shorten the lifespan. It's not like they're going to die within a few weeks or something like that. It's, you know, it's going to take a long time for them to reduce their lifespan, but the more heat being applied to something does reduce its lifespan, and that applies to probably 95% of all like electronic stuff that you're going to use. So the thing is, what I'm going to start doing is look at more passively cooled enclosures, because people do like the totally silent enclosures. But then I'm probably going to settle on the SN7-100 for those ones, because it is a really good SSD. Now this thing here in this brown box, this is a 2 terabyte upgrade for the M4 Max Pro. So I've got the base version of the M4 Mac Mini. M4 Max Pro, there's no such a thing, is there? Right, so the M4 Mac Mini, this is a 2 terabyte upgrade for it. Now I've only got the 256 gig version, so putting 2 terabytes into that's going to be absolutely awesome. So this thing, like I say, I'll do a video on showing, like, you know, how to install it, then how to go into DFU mode, how to, like, you know, set it all up and whatnot and all the rest of it. And then I'll probably do a quick speed test with it on the installation video, because the installation video, for anybody who's used to my stuff, I do ramble a lot and put loads of details in, as this video is testament to. But what I'll do with the installation video for this thing, I'll just do the installation and then a quick synthetic test of it. However, then what I'll do a good real world disk speed test with this, with one of my super fast external SSDs to test it with. But this looks like it's going to be an absolute stormer for the M4 Mac Mini, and I'm assuming that if the M5 Mac Mini is released before the end of this year, possibly within the next few months into next year, into 2026, I'm assuming that the M5 Mac Mini probably won't change too much internally, in which case an SSD like this, if you've bought one for an M4 Mac Mini and then you go to M5, you might still be able to like just transfer this over to the M5, or maybe you just buy one fresh for an M5, I'm not too sure. Anyway, so there's going to be a lot more of the stuff that I've got there that I couldn't fit on the table that I've got to review coming up. Okay, so I've basically rambled on like a complete and utter psychopath in this video, but hopefully the sections to do with like being a lot more clearer about, like, you know, my transparency policy and stuff like that, hopefully that's going to sit well with people out there and stuff, and hopefully the shit that I've got on the table here is giving some people an idea of videos that they might want to watch in the future. Oh, and don't forget as well, all my videos have always got descriptive titles about the products being used. So, you know, if you're not interested in hardly any of it, but you might be interested in, say, one of these docs, for instance, just keep an eye out for the title for those videos. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. I've spoken far too much and I need to get off because I need to crack on with doing another video. I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.